So Bitcoin is falling down today, but how is that affecting MSTY? Let's check it out. Hello my friends, this is Legend. So today we're going to take a look at MSTY and Mr. as Mr. is the underlying for MSTY, and both of them are pretty much Bitcoin plays. And with Bitcoin falling down today, let's just see how that's going to affect MSTY. So let's go over to the charts and check it out. Alright, so here we are on the Webull charts, and we are looking at MSTY currently. And as you can see, we did have a little bitty green candle here, but it is red on the day because it is down 21 cents, which is 0.99%. And the reason this is red is because it is lower than the close of yesterday. So it closed yesterday at $21.21, and then it closed today at $21 even. And that's why you see the minus 21 cents here. Now we did have some green volume, but overall here it is somewhat flat to down, right? So I'm going to flip it over to the adjusted chart, and let's just see where we are on the indicators. Okay, so here we are on the adjusted chart, and as you can see, we are sitting right there at the middle of that Bollinger Band, but with that long wick on top here, that's not a good positive sign. That would be more of a bearish sign, which means that Mr. probably is coming down, and it probably also is showing that long wick on top because it does somewhat follow Mr.'s movements. We can see on the MACD, it was trying to cross, and we might be actually getting rejected off of that signal line, but we'll see how that turns out tomorrow. And as you can also see down here on the RSI, we are at 53, so we're right there in the middle. But that RSI 2 is coming down pretty quick. So if this price here can come on down to about that halfway part to the bottom of the Bollinger Band, and if that RSI 2 can drop on down below that 10, maybe I'll pick up a couple shares. But I'd like to see that candle to get closer to the bottom of that Bollinger Band, and I definitely would like to see that RSI 2 to get below that 10. But I might get my chance tomorrow. But to better understand where MSTY is going, we have to look at Mr. So let's just jump on to Mr. here. And we are looking at Mr. now. And there's that big long wick on the top of today's candle. Just like I said, it would probably be there. And there it is. Mr. has that big long wick on top. Now what does that mean? Well, that means there's a lot of sellers up here. And as that price was going up, the sellers pushed it right on back down. So when you start getting this upside down hammer, that's more of a bearish sign, but we'll see where it actually goes down to. I do have that support line at 373.86, but the way Bitcoin dropped today, we might actually get below that and possibly even start coming down here and testing our low of 358.50. Because as you can see on the overnight, we're at 366.54. So it's definitely below our 373.86 currently. But that is overnight hours. So take the price at overnight with a grain of salt there. But as you can see down here, we also have a little bit of a stagnant momentum here. That MACD is just flattening out and possibly starting to turn down just ever so slightly. So, like I said, it looks like we might be getting rejected at that signal line. And that would be also confirming this big long wick at the top of this candle here, being that the sellers are sitting right up in here in this area and are pushing this back down. And that might be why we are starting to get a little bit of a rejection there, and we might be coming down just a little bit more. But all of this is due to Bitcoin let's just go ahead and go check that out. Woo! Oh, gracious. Look at Bitcoin. Look at that big red, nasty looking candle. That is a pretty good drop right there. We've dropped 4.3% today. So everybody should start selling out. Get rid of your Bitcoin. Right? No, for sure. I don't think so. Moments like this, though, will cause people to get worried and start selling off. And you could also have had some people having stops in there so that when it was coming down, it started triggering a lot of stops. But either way, it definitely has fell today. It went as high today as 108.5K, and it's been as low as 102.7K. And we're sitting at just over 103 right now. So we are a bit on the low end, but do notice that there is a little bit of a possible support right in here in this area. Both of these candles where you had that drop, that wick on the bottom, but it came back up to this point and closed. And this one here took off from that point and went up, and it kept going up. So we might have a bit of a support right there, and we can just go ahead and we can draw a little line right there just for a reference so you can see it. There we go. And I'll thicken it up so it's easier to see on the screens. So what happened here is we came down and we closed pretty much right there on this line and opened the next day at that line, and then we took off, right? So it went all the way up to here. Now we're starting to come back down, and we're going to test this line again. Now, will we break that line? Don't know. But it could come, and it could just sit there and bounce off of this line and then start heading back up. Or it could continue what seems to be a little bit of a short-term downtrend here, and we could come on back down and start testing this 100.3K right here. And that's possible because we do have this negative momentum here growing. We did get that bounce off of that signal line. So it went up to that signal line right there and then rejected, right? And we got smacked with the sellers coming in, and they pushed it on down. So that's what's happening right now. As the RSI is sitting at 45, it's not oversold, so it's got room to come on down. The momentum isn't crazy, right? It is still low momentum, but it is definitely higher than yesterday. So currently looks like we might be coming on down just a little bit, but we'll see. Will our support lines here, will they hold Bitcoin up at this 102.4? And then the next one being at this 100.3. And if it drops below the 100, then we might be coming back down and start testing the high 90s. But if you are bullish Bitcoin, then you're not really too worried here. I mean, we are setting up close to the all-time highs, being at what, 112 here, and now we're at 103. So don't get all focused on the short term here. Sometimes what you have to do is kind of take a moment and zoom out. And if we zoom out a bit here, and I can shrink this up so we can get more candles in the view here. And as you can see for yourself here, we have been on an upward trend. Are there pullbacks? Sure, but that's part of the game. But being at these all-time highs here, you kind of got to figure you got to cool off a little bit to see if you can allow the buyers to take a little breather and then start pumping this thing back up. And that could happen. But right now, it looks like the sellers are going to have their moment in the light. We just don't know how long the sellers will be here. That is a pretty sharp turn on that MACD. But right over here, we did the same thing, right? Where we were above, came down, we broke down below it, but then came right back up and broke back above it. Right? So it's just going to kind of go back and forth on the MACD, crossing that signal line, giving everybody a chance, buyers and sellers, It's just all part of the game. But if you are long-term Bitcoin, then you're not too worried at all, because this thing has been just going up in the last while. Again, we have had pullbacks, but if you look at the overall picture, and that's the big picture here, you can see, and you can draw a line here and tell me which way this is going. So if I draw a line from there all the way up to about where it's at right now, that line to me looks like it's going up, right? So the trend, the overall trend, the big picture trend, Bitcoin is going up. Now that does not mean that it will not come back down, as it has, right? We have been going up, but then we have some pretty hard pullbacks to where here it dropped all the way down to about that 70 range and then shot right up to 112. Now, if you would have grabbed it there and rode it back up to 112, I imagine you're a pretty happy camper. Also sure that it's probably all unrealized gains, because you're probably not selling your Bitcoin anyway. But with these pullbacks like this, we will see a pullback in MSTR, which will come on down. And what will that do with MSTY? Well, MSTY will come down a little bit, but I don't think it's going to come down as hard as MSTR, especially if it falls fast. Because as you can see here, MSTY went down 0.99% today. And what did MSTR drop? 1.9%. And I think that's where selling our calls is actually helping us from taking that full drop. Because if the price of the stock or ETF drops and the call is at a higher price, then it's less money to close that call out, and therefore that's more money in your pocket. And when they're able to keep more money, then the candles are going to reflect that, right? But of course, if it keeps going down, we're losing on the money that we can make off of the synthetic side of it, but we do make some off of the calls as well. So in a way, MSTY is a way to hedge against MSTR dropping down. Now, if MSTR shoots up, we do not capture that full upside because of the calls. But if MSTR falls, then that's a good thing for our calls on MSTY. And that's where we can make some money on that. But again, it all depends on how YieldMax Fund Manager for MSTY is handling these options and earning that premium for all of us who are invested into MSTY. So overall, Bitcoin, big picture, it's going up. Short term, it is coming down. MSTR is coming down a bit, which will affect MSTY, but at least we're not taking the full fall of MSTR like we pointed out a little bit ago. So hold on tight, guys, because Bitcoin's a wild one. It will move up, down, trade sideways, and it can do it very violently. But the one good thing I think we have going for us now is the big institutions being part of Bitcoin. I think that is possibly a factor that could change how Bitcoin goes forward from here out. But that's just my thought. So what do you think? Is MSTY dropping down for a buy for you? Well, it's getting close for me. If we can get that down close to that Bollinger Band, I might be buying a few shares myself. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. If you don't mind hitting that subscribe button, smash the like button, it'd be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, legend out. MSTY